Welcome back, everyone, to the Train Well podcast, inspiring you to move more, get stronger, and have fun. Today was a very special episode because we had a guest come on the podcast, therapist Monica, who has her very own podcast and YouTube channel as well called Cafe with Monica. And Joey and I were actually guests on her show, so definitely check out that episode. But she is a wealth of knowledge. It is her mission to help women make mental health a priority for them so that they can feel more confident in both their personal lives and professional lives.
We have so many golden nuggets in this talk. We talk about therapy, we talk about mindset, we talk about stress, mental health. So sit back, relax, guys. Enjoy this powerful episode with none other than the best therapist on the planet, therapist Monica.
Okay, hello, we're here with Monica. We're so excited to have you here. And if you all remember, Joey and I were on Monica's podcast a couple months ago now, and we had such a blast, and we thought, let's get her on our podcast because she's so cool, so informative. We have to have her here. So if you could just tell us a little bit about what inspired you to kind of blend your career as a therapist with fitness and coaching and motivational work.
Well, I think at first it came from more like a business move for me, just because with therapy, when you're licensed in one state, you're only able to work with clients in that one state. So coaching kind of expands my business a little bit. And I also found that some people who weren't necessarily really good fits for therapy, there were more needing that actionable guidance and a little bit more structured than therapy. I feel like with therapy, the client often leads the discovery process, which is powerful. But I also found myself wanting to bring more of my own story, my lived experiences, strategies that could really support people in building change. And coaching gave me that freedom to do that while still using my therapeutic background, so which I love. I feel like coaching is I like using coaching because it dives into what I don't know if you've heard of like neuroplasticity, which is like when our brain's ability to rewire and create new patterns. And I feel with coaching, I focus a lot on that, on rewiring, on helping people expose themselves to taking action, and that ultimately builds change.
Monica, we're a fitness platform. You saying when you right when you say therapy, the first thing I think of is like fitness, because I know in the process to get someone actionable, fitness will somehow come into that routine or that system, whatever you want to call it. So can you weave into, and we're jaded here, we love fitness, but how does fitness ultimately shape the mindset, shape the path of that therapy?
I like to think of mindset as like the lens you see challenges through, right? So like with mindset and fitness and performance, right? Like if it shapes how you interpret the ups and downs. So if you have a negative mindset, you're going to see a missed workout as a failure. If you have a more encouraging, I wouldn't say toxic positive, but if you have a more encouraging, realistic, then you're more flexible. I was actually really inspired by, I don't know if you guys have heard the book No Sweat by Michelle Sager. She helped reframe exercise for me as something that feels good and fuels your life, as opposed to something that punishes you, that's how I saw it. So I had to do a lot of mindset work in how I see fitness and exercise, because before, for me, I used to be in a dance team. And so anytime someone wouldn't wear the proper attire for practice, we would all have to run laps or do burpees. And so I often saw exercise as punishment, as a form of discipline, action, right? Like if you do something wrong, this is how you're going to get punished. And so for me, the biggest thing was if I'm able to change the way I see fitness, I'm able to enjoy it more. I'm able to not criticize myself as much, and I'm able to push myself to a level gradually, more sustainably. And I think that's where exercise and mindset kind of intertwine together. They work together. If you don't have a healthy mindset, then you're going to enter and you may get results, but it's not going to be sustainable. It's going to be something that you're probably going to only be able to do to a certain extent, and you're constantly going to be comparing yourself along the way to other people. It's not going to come from a place of you actually strengthening your own journey. So that's why I think like mindset and fitness all kind of come together. Does that answer your question?
So good. We can go so many ways, Dee. Where do you want to go?
I do want to dive into that a little more because I think you hit on something like so important. I notice with a lot of my clients, they come to fitness with so much baggage. Like you said, you grew up in this dance team and fitness was like used as a form of discipline. But I see clients come at it from like they have a really bad gym class experience. Like more often than you would think, it's a bad gym class experience or a negative relationship with like training for a sports team, like being on the sports team, or a bad coach that they had that, made them feel ashamed or put down, or even like, similar to my own personal experience, just having horrible body image, really feeling uncomfortable in my body, and then going into fitness from a place of like, I just want to be skinny. I just want to look like, X, Y, and Z person on a magazine. Instead of from a place of like, body respect. And I'm wondering if you can speak to that. Like, what are some of the real strategies that people can use to start shifting that mindset? Because it's really hard to let go of that baggage.
Of like, are you talking about the baggage that comes from maybe having a negative experience? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, having that negative experience and then bringing that like feeling of being so hard on themselves to like a fitness routine or a fitness program.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first step, I mean, even in therapy, it's like we have to figure out what are the first, like, what are the initial beliefs, like, about that specific thing. So whether that's fitness or whatever topic, so that we can see, like, okay, how can we start reframing that? Because if we're constantly seeing this as like a negative thing, part of it is helping the client, one, try to feel comfortable and safe to take the step towards exposure. Because a lot of the times, people will avoid uncomfortable feelings, right? Like if you've had a negative experience in the past, you're not going to want to enter it again because there's a possibility that something bad can happen, right? Again, right? Like we're geared to survive. So we're not going to put ourselves in like a dangerous situation. So a big part of it is like, how can you make the safe environment? And that could be continuously exposing yourself to more new things. That's why I tell clients, like, try to find like different forms of movement because one form might not be the right fit for you and you might hate it, but also know that we try, and if it doesn't work, then we're going to try something else. And that flexibility is so important. Getting people to try is, I think, the hardest thing because again, their guards are up. So trying is one of the biggest things where like people try to basically they give up because they're like, I don't want to try because again, there might be the possibility that I don't like it or that I don't come back from it. So it's like being able to try and then having moments of pausing, reflection, before you engage them again, because again, you're exposing them. We in therapy, we call this an exposure hierarchy. So we think about like the biggest triggering event. So let's just say the biggest triggering event is going to a gym. Maybe the one time you went to a gym, you felt everybody was noticing you. You felt you started using a machine and like the weights, I don't know, that experience where like you drop the weight on one of the machines and like everybody hears now. So let's just say that was like the biggest triggering event. We start them off by just exposing like going into the gym parking lot. Maybe the next thing is just going in and walking around and going into the locker room. And we're gradually exposing them to new experiences because again, we're trying to rewire that pattern, create new neural pathways so they're able to try again. But it starts from like, let me make this a safe environment first before I even tell you to start doing some new workout that that you're like too afraid to even go to the gym for. And sometimes it's just knowing where your first exposure is going to be. Like for me, when I started fitness, my first exposure was working at home. That was safe for me. That allowed me to fail like without like anybody seeing it. And I was okay. I have to learn how to fail in front of people later on, and that's okay, because we all have to a form of failure, and that's okay. Like failing is like the way we learn. But for some people, they don't want to show the world that they're failing, whether that's at the gym because they tried something new and they didn't know how to use that machine, or they tried a new weight and they couldn't handle it and someone had to take the weight off from them. Like those are also things that if you have low self-esteem and you have a negative mindset, that could deter you from trying again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I love that idea of just taking those small baby steps to expose yourself and then noticing, like, okay, that was fine. Everything was safe here. And then taking that next step.
Monica, you're so good. Like the way I'm getting inspired to take action just listening to these steps. I don't even think about it, but here's what I want to ask you. So at some point you have bad moment or bad relationship with whatever X.
Mm-hmm.
At some point you have to take action, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in a very non-committal society right now where people do not want to do anything. They don't want to commit because they're scared of failure, they're scared of whatever, right? Here's the thing I want to ask you. In this non-committal system or society we live in, we also live in this perfectionism society. And so how does someone balance like this all or nothing approach, and I have to go to the gym 60 minutes, otherwise it's a failure, right? How do we coach that to say, hey client, you don't have to be perfect, you have to be consistent, and so forth?
Yeah. I mean, I like to challenge clients, because when they say like, oh, 60 minutes, I don't have 60 minutes, so I'm not going to do it at all. I like to, I like to blatantly let them know, like, okay, but how is that working out for you? Like, you're not doing anything at all. Like, how is that working out for you? Right? Like, no action will always reap no results, right? Like, the answer is always no if you never ask. And so for me, I think it's like challenging the person to think, okay, what if you try this out for X amount of time, and if you don't feel good, whether you're just not seeing any results, any type of results, then okay, you could go back to wanting to do 60 minutes and we can figure that out. But sometimes it's not going to fit your lifestyle. It's not going to fit the way realistically your life works, whether you have kids or you have a 9 to 5 and you only have X amount of time in a day, or you have a chronic illness and you literally don't have the energy to expend on a 60-minute workout session. I think a big part is in therapy and even in coaching is being that mirror for your client to give them that feedback back. Like, okay, this is what I'm seeing. Like, this is the reality. Like, with love and compassion, this is the reality. You're not working out your 60 minutes. We tried it. You tried it your way. I put 60-minute sessions on your workouts, but you're not doing it. But you said you are doing at least 20. Why not? We start doing 30. If 20 is where your base level is, I think a lot of people just don't have a hard time trying to find their base level first and then incrementally progressing themselves. That's what I had a hard time. I was someone, I would not try something if I wasn't good at it. I hated not being good at something. To this day, I don't like playing games or video games because I know I'm not good at it. And little by little, I try to find other things that actually motivated me to do them, whether that's like the joy I experience in learning something or the people that I'm surrounded with. Like, sometimes working out isn't fun for some people, but spending time with friends and going to a class together is fun. And so helping them understand that there are other benefits other than the thing that they think initially is going to happen. Like, 60 minutes is going to give me the results. Well, now you have to show them like there are different pathways where you could still gain results. It's not just that one thing. And I think that thing is like, people always think like rigidly, this is what's going to give me the results. And as coaches, it's probably the job to show them that there are different ways to do the same thing. There are so many infinite amount of ways to get to certain results, and some are going to fit your life and some are not going to fit your life. And that's how you get people from not thinking the all or nothing, because it's not all or nothing. There are A lot of things, a lot of ways to succeed at obtaining a goal. And sometimes I've had people who they'll say like, hey, I did a half marathon and I felt literally nothing at the end of doing it. I felt no joy, I felt no nothing. And it's like I just wanted to check it off. And that's because it was just the wrong goal at the wrong time. And it's okay. It's okay to recognize that sometimes you push yourself to do things that you don't want to do. And in a world where we don't have a lot of control, keeping that control of the things that we do want to do, that do find us joy, is so important. And I feel like if we can reinforce that to clients, let them try little things, let them have their way first. I always tell my clients, if you want to do it that way, great. But now I'm going to be the mirror that shows you what that looks like.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love this, what you're saying about the results. You like start talking about results and like how this client, accomplished this big thing and then they ended up feeling like, okay, whatever. And I'm curious how you feel about, and do you suggest or help your clients to do this, is to even create goals? Like, do you think like having a goal is actually beneficial to someone, like that outcome moment? Or is it better to be more invested in the process? Like, how do you navigate that with someone?
So, it depends on the individual. Like, for instance, if I have a client who loves to people please, there's a reason why they do that. There's benefits to people pleasing. So I'm more interested in like, what benefits do you get? That way we could replicate that in a healthier way. Because you think that by doing this thing this way, right? People pleasing or saying yes to everything, overbooking yourself, doing things like, again, a workout for 60 minutes, pressuring yourself into a box, you're getting benefits from it. Like something about you says, this is going to get me something, right? And so I like to say, okay, what are the benefits? Because then that's going to tell me like what actual goal you want to reach. Because a lot of people like, my goal is to lose 10 pounds. But reality, it's not the 10 pounds that the goal is. It's usually like, I want to feel confident, or I want to dress a certain way, or I want to have access to dressing in certain clothes. And that is the most important thing, because then you're just like, okay, well, then the goal is not losing 10 pounds. The goal is I want to be able to wear this particular type of clothing. There's something about me right now that says I can't do it, whether that is certain clothing is just not accessible in her body, or really they haven't exposed themselves to trying that type of outfit. And I think that's how you get to the right goal. So I do think that I use goals for my clients. They need it. But for me, what's most important are the objectives. Like, what do we do to get to the goal? And can we adjust the goal as we start seeing what you actually really want? The benefits of what you're doing. And like, is it getting you the benefits?
I always tell people there's the emotional goal and then there's a superficial goal, right? Superficial goal. This is a little vulgar, but you want to lose 20 pounds? Okay, we're going to cut off both legs. What do you really want out of this?
Yeah.
And that leads down a huge different objective, right? What you said, objective. Monica, we're bouncing all over the place, but can I have you go back to joy and explain the importance of finding people's joy in anything, whether it's work, whether it's relationships, whether it's fitness, whatever? How do you tell people how to find their joy? Because we're always comparing. That's what you said the other time is, like I heard this the other day, you don't post something on social media to see how you like it. It's how many likes you get, right? It's almost like
to validate someone to validate you.
Yeah, validate. Thank you. Validate. So how do you teach someone to find their joy?
Well, I always like to tell clients, like, do you know the full extent of their life and their lifestyle and why they do what they do? Because if you don't know, like people on social media, you don't know why they do something. I saw this girl where she would post like every single day and would post like 4 to 5 videos a day. And I'm like, that's so cool. I wish I could do that. And then I really start and think about like, would I do that? Like, would I create content to that extent? Would I push myself that much? No, because then I would never feel present. I want to feel present. And I think with clients who want to find their joy, a little bit is trying to consume less and create more, right? So like the fact that we live in a world where it's so easy to look at someone else's morning routine, or it's so easy to see someone else's accomplishments via social media, makes it so much harder for us to be more present focused. So again, the big part is exposure, because it's not something that you regularly want to do. You got to push yourself and build that resilience to find joy, because when finding joy, you're also going to be uncomfortable. You find the lack of joy, because when you're trying something that you don't like, that's where people are like, I don't like it, so I'm just going to stop trying. And it's like, well, you need to not like something so that you figure out what you do like. But you're just so uncomfortable and you're avoiding that uncomfortable feeling. And that's what leads you to like not try. So the more you try, the more that you allow yourself to be uncomfortable, the more that you sit with why you're comparing yourself to someone. You're comparing yourself because you think they got it. They got what the feeling that you're needing, right? Whether that's joy, contentment, success, whatever the feeling. You're comparing yourself because you think that they have it, but you don't know them, right? There's this thing like we have parasocial relationships with people. We think we know people that are on the internet, but we genuinely don't. We only know what they present to us. And most people are not going to share their hardest struggles, their most vulnerable thoughts. Most people have struggle with self-criticism. Most people struggle with failure, but they're not going to show that to you. And so when you are able to focus on your journey, what that's going to be the biggest indicator of you being able to tap into joy, because joy doesn't come joy comes with the price. It comes with the price of feeling uncomfortable. And a lot of us just don't want to tap into that. So the biggest thing is like, it's okay to feel uncomfortable. It's okay to feel all these like negative emotions. If you only felt joy, you'd be a robot. You wouldn't be able to, like you would constantly be happy, but you wouldn't know why. Like you wouldn't understand like something that makes you uncomfortable versus something that makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah, it's like kind of you have to put in the work to find the joy, but the first step is the work to find it. Yeah, that discomfort. I'm wondering if we could talk a bit about stress. So we've been talking about, we kind of, live in this society that's very like comparison focused, very like focused on perfectionism, achievement, constantly achieving. I know this is something personally that I struggle with, is constantly needing to feel that like I need to climb that next step. I need to climb that next step. I need to achieve. I need to do more. I need to do better. Even if my life in the moment is so great, there's this like lingering feeling of like, I need to achieve more. And I think that mindset, additionally, it plays out within fitness, but it also can be a barrier to moving our bodies. Like having that high stress, we think, okay, we can't prioritize ourselves. We can't prioritize working out because we have all these XYZ things, achievements we need to accomplish. And I'm wondering if you could talk about how stress is affecting our body, our mindset, our ability to do the things we really need to do to care for ourselves.
Well, I mean, in the context of workouts, I mean, stress follows you into your workouts, right? Like some people, it shows up as a distraction. You can't focus. For others, it's fatigue, low energy. And sometimes people overtrain as a way to escape stress, which can backfire. Because again, we are constantly wanting to escape uncomfortableness, whether that is like, I want to achieve more. Really, the question that I would like ask a client is like, why is it what you have now not enough? Why can't we be bored? I think we all struggle with being bored. We all constantly want a bigger purpose, a bigger meaning to our life when we're worthy and our lives are meaningful just the way we are, just by existing. And I know that sounds a little woo-woo, but it is, like we don't need more. We get stuck in the ambitious trap because whether that is we were exposed to environments that put us in a pedestal of ambition. Like I know, like if I got an A, my mom used to give me $20 every time I got an A on my report card. And so that was positive reinforcement right there. So as I grew older and when I would get like awards and stuff, people would start saying, you should be more like Monica. Like that fed into me being so much more ambitious and putting my worth as putting the things that I achieve as my worth. So when I wasn't doing great, when I stepped into entrepreneurship and I was like, oh shit, like now I have to like struggle and fail and try different things. I don't like this. It made me less resilient to those things. So a big part of it is like checking in with yourself, like, why isn't what I'm doing enough? And also like, is it backfiring for me? Like, am I unaddressing my stress, my uncomfortableness? Most of the time it's just unaddressed stress. When it shows up in our workouts, when it shows up in other areas in our life, it is because we don't want to fully just sit in what's actually happening in our lives. And like, it's easy to use exercise as an escape because it feels good, right? Like, I mean, again, exercise is good for you, but anything that you do that is good for you, if you do it in excess, it could still be a bad thing.
Absolutely.
Because you need to know a limit. You're not limitless. Like everyone has limits. You can expand your limit, but that takes time. That takes the ability to challenge yourself over time in a sustainable way to build your limit. But a lot of us just want to avoid the stress, avoid addressing it. And a big part of it is just being bored sometimes. Sometimes it's just like sitting and just seeing like, I'm just uncomfortable right now and I want to do something about it. And so that's why like I'll go for a walk or I'll do this. Sometimes you just have to sit and be bored. That's still something I still struggle with. I don't know if you guys struggle with just like being bored, because I do. I struggle with like not doing something.
I just built a gazebo this weekend. Beautiful, right? And that took a million steps, and I just could not stop until that thing was done. Otherwise I get too bored, I'm like, okay, what am I doing? No, it needs to be done, blah, blah, blah. So I struggle with a lot of this. Hey, I want to talk about, I want to get into mental health, but before I do, you said, you got to set limits. And a monk told me once that there is a use, abuse, and misuse of everything, whether it's eating cupcakes or running, right? But let's get into mental health if we can, because that's a hot topic. But one question I had for you is, give me a common myth right now that surrounds mental health in the fitness world that you would like to bust.
There's a few. One that comes to mind is I hear a lot that if you struggle mentally, it must mean you're not disciplined enough. So people think that like people who struggle with anxiety, depression, or perfectionism might equal like laziness, weakness. But it's honestly often the opposite. Many of like my high achieving clients actually put in more effort when they're struggling. So we're talking, they overthink every choice, they push themselves harder or criticize themselves for not doing enough. That constant mental pressure increases effort, but it decreases the results because your brain and your body can't perform well under stress, So like there's constantly this push and pull. And that's the one that I want to debunk, because I don't think just because you struggle with mental health issues doesn't mean you're not disciplined enough. You don't have like the will to overpower it. Sometimes you're dealing with real life circumstances that create additional barriers for you to create that discipline, to stay motivated. Sometimes you don't have access to mental health care, and that could also make the biggest difference in how you show up for other areas like fitness or career and things like that. That's the one I think that your brain sometimes, when you struggle with mental health, it's just working overtime. And so you're working overtime, discipline is like the last thing you think about because you're already putting so much pressure on yourself.
Yeah. Oh God, that is so good. My heart really goes out for people who are struggling with that, because it feels very much outside of your control when you're in the moment. And we talked about high achievers or people who are just really struggling with, overthink of everything, every little decision, and putting in so much mental effort. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about burnout and how like what strategies people can use to prevent that burnout. Like if somebody is struggling with mental health or they're in a really stressful time in their life, should they be in your opinion, do you think that they should be really highly focused on like getting in their workouts? Like on one hand, workouts can give energy back and they, help make your body feel better. And on the other hand, it is a stress. So
Yeah.
what do you talk to
I
your
mean,
clients
it definitely depends on the person, right? Because burnout is typically unaddressed stress over time, right? So I do really like to pull back from when I have clients who are in a season of burnout. I do like them to pull them out back to basics, because I it's like your brain doesn't know what it can handle anymore. It feels already so overwhelmed. So if now you're trying to like work on a fitness goal or wanting to work on exercising more, but but the background is like you're having a shitstorm of like stressors in your life, work isn't going well, like it might not be the right time. I like to encourage clients to engage in tasks they've been avoiding, because the more that they expose themselves, the more they're making themselves less anxious and more resilient, because burnout um, thrives in inaction, right? Like burnout thrives in you just, staying in bed, being overwhelmed, being overstimulated. And part of healing burnout is slowing down. And so movement can be a good thing, um, but movement has to be gentle. It can't be overstimulated. I mean, even clients who struggle with PTSD, there's the benefits to exercise, like for anybody, right, to help with mental health. But for clients who have PTSD, it might spark hyperarousal. It might trigger that response. So now they're more alert, and it does the opposite of what exercise should be, which should be helpful. That's why I believe, whether you're burnt out, like a slow, gradual approach, repetitive, to avoid overwhelming clients is helpful, so that they could create a path towards self-awareness, so that they could actually understand more. So like when it comes to like training, this would be making sure that they're doing 4 to 6 weeks of the same workout, but maybe increasing it over time. That's why I like progressive overload, because I think that that's something where it would make sense for someone who is burnt out to help in that way. That way we're not doing like excessive workouts that maybe increase their heart rate, like HIIT. I wouldn't do HIIT, because all you're going to do is you're going to put your body in a state of thinking that it's anxious when you're already probably overwhelmed and overstimulated. You do get a rush of endorphins, but immediately after that, the burnout's going to come right back, because that stressor hasn't gone away. If it's like a work stress or something else related to like your personal life, it's not going to do anything. It might help temporarily. And we want movement to be a tool that they keep on doing. And if it's enforcing to do too much, and it's enforcing them to get stuck in that hyperarousal state, then it might not be beneficial. So it sucks that I'd say it depends, but it does depend. A big strategy I just think is, for me, it's doing something you've been avoiding, really getting into the root of the burnout. Sometimes it's just in a job that it's unsatisfying, and maybe you haven't spoken up to your boss about things. Maybe you're constantly saying yes to things. Maybe you have too many commitments. A lot of it has to be like somewhere in time, we lost the plot. We don't know what we're doing. And our brain wants to take a break. Because if you don't take a break, your brain will take a break for you. That's just how it works.
Hey, that's so good for us to hear, because when we get clients, right, our answer to solving cancer is like more fitness, more HIIT, more steady state, more weight on the bench press, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we onboard these clients, we may need to have that conversation that's like, hey, this really isn't the time for you. Like, you need to go for a walk and journal or meditate or breathe, rather than subscribe to the fitness body boot camp subscription plan, right? So on that note, I want to get into action now. Like, tell us strategies of how we can journal better, or like I said, meditate better. Like, if someone only had 5 minutes a day to improve their mindset over all of this, everything we talked about, where would you start with them? Is it getting pen to paper? Is it getting out the million meditation apps, which can be stressful in itself, picking the right app? So
Yeah, I wouldn't do a meditation app. I wouldn't do a meditation app because um for a first step that is like a lot overwhelming, right? Because again, you have to think about what meditation to choose from. Like then you're gonna be like, a lot of people go into the mindset of like, I'm gonna meditate, I'm not gonna think about anything. And it's like, that's not how meditation works. Meditation is allowing the thoughts to flow away. They're gonna come and then flow away. And that takes effort. And that takes a lot of effort. And if you're someone who you're trying just to build strength in your mindset, you want to do a brain rep, right? You want to start doing maybe one reflection at a time. Like, what do I need today? So many people don't ask themselves what they need. I think if you could just have 5 minutes of, putting pen to paper and asking yourself, what do I need today? So that you're answering your basic needs, you're enforcing that you're checking in with yourself on what you need. Or maybe you don't know what you need. And that's a great question. That's going to give you a lot more insight into what might be bothering you outside of just this like one exercise. It's not about how big the action is. I think it's about keeping the promise to yourself, which that's why I love like James Clear, because he always talks about like the 2-minute rule, like doing something for 2 minutes is beneficial, and constantly taking that action will be more beneficial than taking no action. Repetition builds self-trust. So doing one brain rep, asking yourself, what do I need today? I think that'll help you build the foundation for a stronger mindset.
Brain rep. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah. Brain rep.
Yeah, that's really good. So I'm curious if someone is listening to this and they're feeling like either they're burnout, they're too stressed, or they're lacking that, they feel stuck in some way and they feel like they need some help. How do they know if they need like a therapist, a coach, a personal trainer? Like, how do they evaluate that for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. And sometimes you don't know until you're working with the actual provider, which sucks. I know. But that's why I think self reflection is so important, because I think it'll help you understand yourself a little better. But I mean, in terms of just to give you a couple bullets of like what would people know the difference, I feel like if you're looking for structure, accountability, or help with building habits, coaching might be the right fit. However, if you have a lot of mental barriers, if you notice deeper struggles like anxiety, meaning I can't do this X, Y, and Z because I have to do it in this type of condition. If your perfectionism is I only think doing 60 minutes will be what it gets me to success. Or trauma. If you have a deeper struggle with trauma, whether that's something like you were in an accident or something like that, maybe you've already done the physical therapy, you've already talked to someone, then that makes sense to go coaching. Now you're able to, you're ready to take that action. I think it comes to like, are you ready to take the steps necessary, and are you able to listen with an open mind to your coach? Because if you're not going to be able to listen with an open mind to your coach, your coach will be struggling to just get you to do something. So I think that people benefit from therapy to heal with what's keeping them stuck, and coaching to build the future they want. That's how I see it.
That
was good.
Yeah, that is a really good synopsis of that. And then I imagine along with like a coach, that's maybe where like getting a personal trainer could come in when you're ready to take that action, and you maybe need a trainer to like help you put together that program that's going to get you where you want to be going.
Or doing it simultaneously. Like I remember when I started with my nutritionist, she said, "Are you in therapy?" And I was like, "What? Like, is that necessary?" She's like, "Yeah, it's necessary." And I'm so glad that she said that, because I was so much able to incorporate her meal plans, her knowledge around nutrition, because I had therapy to talk through some of my mental barriers. So she didn't have to take into doing something that's outside of her scope too. So yeah, I think you could do it also simultaneously as well. Yeah, but if you're already overwhelmed,
right, stick with one.
Stick with one. Yeah.
Too many cooks in the fire. You don't want to have a nutritionist, physical therapist, chiropractor, blah, 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 right?
They will tell you all three, like all different things to focus on. And one will say is more important than the other. And it's like, you're going to be like, what goes first, the chicken or the egg? Like, you won't know because there's so many, you'll be so overwhelmed.
There's only one industry where you can have multiple cooks in the kitchen. You know what that is? Construction.
Yeah.
Construction. You need your framing, you need your plumber, you need your electrician, you need blah, blah, blah. But maybe I just say that because I'm Hispanic. So,
but they also can't work simultaneously together.
That's
though.
True. Yeah, they can't.
Because they can't get in the way because they'll get in the way.
Monica, this conversation has been fruitful. We've talked joy. That was probably the biggest thing that stuck out with me is joy, perfectionism. We talked about routines, talked about your habits. We talked about those borders, right? But let's get into some overrated, underrated, because my hope is we'll say some of these subjects, and then if you can dive a little deeper, because these are some buzzwords and whatnot. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll kick us off with morning and bedtime routines. Are they overrated, underrated? Why?
I'm gonna say overrated, but only if they're overrated if we're following someone else's version. But if you adapt it to your life, it can be powerful. That's the way I see it. And also if it's adaptable to your every season. Because if we're just gonna be rigid again with morning and bedtime routines, where we have a set amount of time where we have to wake up at this, it's not gonna be realistic because you don't live like a machine. Some days, if you have kids, like your kid's gonna wake up earlier than you do, or they're gonna be sick, and like there's just so many things. So that's why I think they're overrated, because they're sometimes the way like people put them online is prescriptive, and I don't like that. I don't like prescriptive routines. Like but they're enjoyable to watch. I just don't think that they're realistic for the everyday person.
I love that answer. That was so good. Yeah, if you have kids, they're literally always sick. So don't plan to do anything for yourself for the rest of your life, basically. Okay, next one. Overrated, underrated. This is kind of like a two-part. Discipline and or like relying on motivation.
Overrated. I prefer self-compassion as a guide. Discipline can be useful, but if it feels rigid, it backfires. Like, again, if we're thinking of no pain, no gain type of discipline, where you have to criticize yourself to get you to where you need to be, it'll get you there, but it'll backfire. It'll backfire again, because self-compassion is so important. Self-compassion is actually accountability, and it's allowing yourself, like, if I missed a workout today, that's okay. I'm going to do it tomorrow. That's the true thing. That's so self-compassion guides, and then it leads to discipline. So that's overrated.
So the high school coaches who are like, no pain, no gain, are obsolete now. That's why. How about rest days, Monica? Overrated, underrated?
Underrated. Rest is where recovery, growth, and sustainability happen. And I wish I had taken more rest days. I wish I allowed myself to rest. That's something that I have to heal. My mom, the moment she would wake up, she wouldn't take care of her needs and eat breakfast. Instead, she would like clean the house, do all this. Or even when I'm sitting down and I'm resting, she'd be doing things. And so I constantly learned that like, you can't rest until you're done doing something. And that's something I'm having to like unlearn. So I think rest days are underrated. I wish we would do more and like would talk more about rest and how important that is and how productive it is.
I love that. Okay. We had meditation apps in there, but I think you kind of already hit on a little bit overrated. So I want to skip to this. This one is a big kind of like buzzword right now, visualization. And I'm also going to throw in there like manifestation. Do you think it's overrated, underrated?
I think it's overrated, but only if you're just daydreaming without action. If you pair vision with action, that's where I feel like magic happens. Like, I love visualization. I have a vision board, and I look at it every day, and that allows me to ask myself, like, what version am I training for today? And it's usually that version, and it's a good reminder. So that's why I think visualization is important, but action's always going to win too.
Yeah. Okay. So, we appreciate you being here so much. I think if we could end with, just like, if you want to leave our listeners with like one mental fitness or mindset tool that they could start using right now, what would you say? I know it's probably hard to pick one, but one action step.
People always hate when I say this, but I am always going to be a proponent to this thing, and it's starting small, but more about like starting small, but keeping a promise to yourself. You are the person that can make actionable changes to your life, but it takes you keeping that promise to yourself. And keeping that promise doesn't have to be rigid. It could be flexible. You could take tiny actions. You could change it to what fits that day. But consistency will always rewire your brain. It will expose you. It will make you more resilient. So small is really great. And small doesn't have to be insignificant. It could be meaningful. And I think we think small, we think meaningless. But no, small can be purposeful and more meaningful than a big step forward that might not give you the benefit. Like, I think small, you're able to see where you can adjust. Big, well, you already did this big step. Is good, you might not be able to take it back.
Right. That's
Yard by yard, it's hard, Monica. Inch by inch, it's a cinch, baby. Tell us where people can find you. Give us your social media, your websites, etc.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Cafe with Monica. Same thing with my podcast. I love talking about mindset, perfectionism, working with ambitious women, how to build sustainable lives. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was really a pleasure talking to you, and I have so many takeaways that I'm going to move forward with, and I'm sure our listeners will too.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Monica. As always, we thank you so much for staying tuned with us yet on another episode of the Train Well podcast. We will always be here for you guys with more helpful, creative content. Please be sure to share the show with your friends, your family, and send us an email so we can get more content on for you guys.
And if you are ready to take action and make your vision a reality, like Monica said, you can simply click our show notes to find a link to try out TrainWell for 14 days free and get matched with your very own personal trainer.
See you guys next time.
Bye.